This podcast is a part of the More Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Daily Leader Podcast by Pattern Talent, where we interview great leaders and we seek to understand leadership. I'm Brad McDonald.
And I'm Taylor Jessup, and we really hope that you enjoy this episode. Brad, we are back. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Daily Leader. I'm Taylor Jessup, and my co-host, Brad McDonald. We are, this is not an episode of The Lounge, Brad, so you can be happy. There is no The Lounge.
I'm excited. Yeah,
if you haven't checked out The Lounge, go check it out. Those are our fantastic recap episodes of everybody that we got coming on. Before we jump in here, we got a couple shout outs that we always like to do. We are recording at the department today. Department, thank you so much for meeting all of our podcasting needs and spaces. Jesus with Video Pilot, check him out in our show notes if you like all of the video content that you see. April Norris does our sound. And then we also are sponsored by Ellery May, who, we're missing the candle, which is totally my bad. I'm sorry.
Doghouse.
It's my wife's business, and she hates every time that I say light a tiny fire in your home that smells like heaven, but I'm going to keep saying it because I think it's catchy. Check out Ellery May Candle Co., which at the moment is paused, but we'll be back up.
Yeah, that's a good thing to remember.
Yeah.
Go to Ellery. Yeah, follow her on Instagram. It's in the show notes.
Yeah.
Click there.
This is going to date it.
Can we do let's do a shout out to Zach and Kelsey.
Oh yeah,
because they're listeners.
Yeah.
Number one, but they also have a newborn.
They do. Congratulations.
Hello to
listeners.
Zach and Kelsey, we love you.
Yeah.
Congrats on your newborn.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of babies coming around. There's something in the water that we've been drinking in our group because everybody's having kids. So I've got two any day now. So what am I missing? Oh, the only other thing that we would like to mention at the beginning of the episode is if you are a Daily Leader podcast fan, if you've got the tattoo or the t-shirt or if you got the whole sleeve, send us a picture. Like if you're one of the few that's got the whole sleeve, right in the head.
Do some designs?
Carve it in the head, whatever you want. If you've got that, or if you're just like, I like these guys, or I can tolerate them, we'll take any of those. It really helps us out if you would like or subscribe. Follow us, Instagram, on all your podcasting places, Apple, Spotify, YouTube. That would be fantastic. With that,
iHeart,
that's true. iHeart and Amazon as well.
Just
so
for the two of you that are listening,
a couple people out there,
we appreciate your
that
patron.
are still. Those are kind of like our Android Sam's Club goers. Sorry if we are starting another battle. We won't get too much into it. So, Brad, people have heard us enough. Why don't you introduce our guest? I'm pumped.
Today is super exciting because we have the opportunity to host our new friend, Jessica Pierce. Jessica is the founder and the CEO of Career Connectors, which is an incredible organization here in Phoenix and the entire state of Arizona that is helping job seekers and employers get connected. She's the founder and CEO of Thrive139, which helps large churches, ministries, and nonprofits with some of the consulting needs that they have. She's an entrepreneur with a couple side hustles with her family, and one that I'm really excited about, which is being a Swimply host. And she is the #1 rated pool in the East Valley.
Which is unbelievable.
So most of our listeners live in New York. Okay, so that's one thing I do know, which is super interesting.
We're not in New York,
so
just for you know.
If you guys are planning on coming out to Phoenix, just, Swimply, Jessica, it's going to be an awesome experience. You can rent out her pool. Yeah. And you will get to meet her and her family, and they'll be wonderful hosts. Yeah. So without any further ado, please share your story with us. Let us get to know you a little bit better. And we've got a lot of questions that we want to ask you today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me here. Swimply is in New York. There are people that host out there.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is a whole new thing for me. I didn't know Swimply existed.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Above ground pools.
So Swimply, just tell us what Swimply is real fast.
Swimply
Give them a little
is
shout out.
like the Airbnb, but for pools and backyards.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Jessica, do you think they might want to sponsor our podcast?
Who knows? Maybe. They do.
They do now. They got the #1 host in all of Arizona here.
Well, I don't know about that.
Land of pools. Yeah. Well, we're calling it.
We hope to be.
Yeah, we're saying
it.
That's the claim we're making.
It's a fun side gig, and we've met hundreds and hundreds of people.
That's cool. That's cool.
So fun. So I do run Career Connectors, and this started 15 years ago. So in the Great Recession, I'm sure you guys remember the Great Recession, 2008 and 2009, and a lot of people lost jobs. And so my husband and I included, I was running a staffing firm at the time. And we were serving clients that were in land development and commercial real estate.
Oh, wow.
My husband was also a recruiter at the time, and he was laid off 3 times in 6 months off of corporate recruiting positions. Well, when May of 2009, the banks stopped lending, and all of our clients that were in building, which was our industry, either laid off all their staff or just went to very scale staff. And so I had to close our business in May of 2009. So there we were, 2 professionals, well-educated. At the time, our kids we had an infant, a 2-year-old and a 10-year-old. And we were kind of living the dream, as they say. And all of a sudden, everything came to a halt. And I didn't know what to do. Mark and I were trying to figure out the job front. And one night, we went to bed. And it was just so foreign to us because we weren't working. And we had been working since we were about 15 years old each, right? Like, it was just ingrained in who we were. So went to bed. I woke up the next morning and I had this very clear call that said I needed to go help people that were looking for jobs because I had I knew how to help people get jobs. And I told Mark, I said, I know what I'm going to do. And Mark's my husband. He's like, yes, because we got to pay the mortgage. And I said, I'm going to go volunteer. And he was like, wait a minute. What?
Okay.
And then I said, I felt this call that I need to do it. And he goes, all right, go do what you have to do. And so I called my local church and said, hey, can I have a room in the back of the church on Monday nights to help people write resumes? And they said, yes, we're getting inundated with calls. We would love for you to do that. And so that started every week. About 25 people were showing up. And I'm about 2 months into it. And I get a call one day. I'd picked up a contract job. I got a call at this contract position. And they said, there's a line around the church. TV is here and radio is on its way. Get over here. I'm like, what are you talking about? And sure enough, there were 300 people that came that night, along with all the media. And that's how it started. And so now we're called Career Connectors. We are located in Arizona, but we serve people all over the nation. We we run events monthly that are virtual so that anyone can attend, and they're career and coaching events. And then we also run hiring events, some virtual, some in person. Yeah. But to date, we've helped over 60,000 people land jobs over the 15 years we've been doing this. And so it was a clear call that this was on my life. And I'm not educated in nonprofits. I have a degree in computer information systems. I worked in Intel for 10 years. So this was not the plan, my plan anyway. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. That worked out very well for not being the plan, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good work.
Yes. It's a daily, it's still a step in faith every single day. Yeah. It's still like, what is next? And we're always picking up projects and figuring out how we can serve more people and looking at funding. But yes.
Yeah.
I wish my plans would go as well as your not.
It's not a straight thing, right? There's
Well, it wasn't the original plan, right?
No.
I think that's something that's really interesting too.
Yeah.
Is like, hey, the original plan didn't work out.
Yeah.
But that actually opened up a door for you for something that has worked out.
In fact, I was laid off from Intel 10 years after working there. And then I went into running a small business. And I can tell you, had I not gone through that layoff, I can say this now. Had I not gone through that layoff at Intel, I would probably retire there. I loved my work there. Yeah. And so getting that layoff and then moving and finding out there's other things, what the world outside of corporate America looks like, blew my mind. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Can I just pause there for a minute? Because that is something that's really interesting to me, because I think, and hopefully connecting with our listeners, like sometimes that like, hey, I lost my job, whatever, that can be a tipping point one way or the other. So what was it about that encouraged you to kind of like keep going and not just crumble and get to the spot where you are now? Like,
well, luckily when that layoff happened, I had about a 9-month severance package. Okay. I was pregnant, so I was getting ready to have our second child, and I was able to take time and really think through what I wanted to do. Yeah. And so then when I came to close out my severance package, Intel actually offered me a position And I said, no, I'm going to go do this other thing. And so it was really thinking through what I wanted to do, and a lot of networking, a lot of talking to people, because when you're in a corporate environment or even a small business environment, but when you're working in a business, you tend to let that take over your world because you're learning, you're trying to figure it out. We really have to be intentional of thinking outside of the current work we're doing, because the opportunities arise when we go out and talk to people and kind of have that growth mindset, that mindset of what is out there, who do I need to talk to? And you may not, just to learn, because if you don't keep learning, you get left behind. And so that's kind of what helped me really push. But Career Connectors and launching that is very different. That was not planned.
Sure.
No, 100%. No, but all of that was helping formulate you get clearer and clearer on your purpose.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
And kind of which lane you need to be in.
Yes.
I do find it interesting just how our stories develop and the amount of people that I think the world is like that are highly successful that have a lot of stories like this where, hey, I was working for Intel and it didn't work out. And then 2008 happened and that didn't work out. And then you know what? I kept going. I kept pursuing things. I had this idea. I chased it down and that finally worked out, right? It does take a lot of work to get there. So in that vein, so I'd love to go back to Career Connectors if we can just for a minute. So, and you did a great, I think that's such a cool, that is like a scene from a movie for me of like, hey, I've been working on this thing. And you wake up to a phone call and somebody's like, you got to get over here. And you're just in shock and awe, which is super cool. So tell me, what is kind of like your why? Well, why are you doing it? I mean, we heard a little bit of the story and what is the why that kind of like keeps you going?
Yeah. Well, I went through a process prior to this where I had to figure out what were the priorities in my life. I could be a workaholic. It's just my nature. So I went through this program and it helped really figure out the purpose, the priorities, and how to be a mom, be a wife, and also at the time I was an employee, be a great employee. And that was a lot of around setting boundaries on, my time. I would work 24 hours a day, and you can't do that when you have 3 littles. It's just not going to happen, or you're not going to have a very good family life. And so setting those priorities, and our family set very intentional priorities that really came down to faith, family, friends, finances, and fitness were the 5 that we said it has to be around here. That developed. So when I got the opportunity, or when Career Connectors happened, and I said I want to step out in faith and do this, it was a definite yes. Because I didn't ever say that lightly. This was something very foreign to, the world, to me, to what I was used to. And that's why, our family was all behind it. My husband was an advocate of it, for sure. And even trying to figure out, how are we going to pay our bills? I mean, we lost our home. We sold a car. Our kids thought they were next, we were getting rid of selling everything. We went from a home that we loved to a rental for 3 years and to get back on track. And so we were trying to figure all this out in the meantime, but I look back at that time and it was such a connection point for our family. We just really, really connected during that time and grew as a family and set the foundation for what would our life look like. We are not going to be workaholics, but we are going to make an impact in our community.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. I think character so often comes through in those really hard times, right? It's easy for most people to be grateful, keep working hard, do all those kind of things when life is coming easy. But it says a lot about you and your family for choosing to pursue those, core values and keep working when it isn't easy. So I love that. I appreciate that. I appreciate you sharing your why. And I love hearing, because there's a lot of common themes that we hear from different people that we have come on of core values and finding your purpose and letting that be your guide, right? And going after that. And that's something that you've done an amazing job at. So super grateful you're here. Follow-up question to all of that. So who's Career Connectors for? Do you guys work with everybody? Is there anybody that, in particular comes to you?
Yeah. Great question, because when I started this, it was very specific to professionals. So people, because that's what I knew, and those are the people I personally could relate to.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we started with professionals, but over the years, it has definitely expanded. We essentially work from everyone from high school students up through executives. We now have multiple programs, so it just depends on what that audience is. We just did a programming for second chance hiring. So people with backgrounds.
That's great.
Do you know 1/3 of the people in Arizona have some type of background?
Really?
And so misdemeanor or felony. Yeah. So really understanding, helping those people find companies that will take people with backgrounds, but also is it possible for them to get an expungement, and working with the attorneys that can do that. So that's an example. Working with refugees, they want to contribute to society.
Yeah.
We have doctors and pilots that have come over here, not by their choice, but because they've needed to, but they can't work here. And so it's a fail system. So how do you get those people to work? So those are just two of the examples.
Yeah.
High school students, college students, professionals, all over the board. And so our monthly programming is for everybody.
Sure.
But then we have very specific areas we work with as well.
That's super cool. I love that.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I think I'm really eager to talk with you about is this idea of employee engagement.
Yeah.
And so I've got some stats that I want to share, and these obviously aren't going to be a surprise to you, but I think to some of our listeners will find them interesting.
Surprise to me.
They'll be a surprise to you.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, only 23% of employees worldwide and 32% in the US fall in the engaged category. 70% of the variance in team engagement is determined solely by the manager, so the line manager. Nearly 80% of employees worldwide are still not engaged or are actively disengaged at work, despite more effort from companies. So effort from companies to create engagement goes up, disengagement stays extremely high. And so those are just three stats that are a part of the Gallup Employee Engagement Survey, which is something I use a lot with my clients when I sell to the Gap.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so they're fascinating. They make my stomach turn. I believe the solution is leadership, right? Great leaders can solve this problem. And we see companies all the time that are solving this problem because of great leadership. But what I want to know from your perspective is just define employee engagement for us, set a little bit of the context. Like, what are we talking about here when we talk about employee engagement, and why is it so important for leaders right now?
So the way I see employee engagement is, are your employees invested, behind, and supportive of what you are doing as an organization?
Wow.
Would they, in a room that the leader is not standing, would they advocate for the company? It's, I believe, I mean, those stats don't surprise me at all. You can throw a ping pong table in a room. You can provide breakfast on Tuesdays. You can do all these cool things that are fun that people don't care about, really. They need a purpose, a reason. They want to be proud of the company they're working for and the mission behind what they do. Now, everyone isn't going to have this big, humongous mission. Like Career Connectors is a mission. Of course, we're a nonprofit. But every organization, but even back to work, why did I love working at Intel? Well, I loved how we were changing technology and what we were doing. So there was a drive there, right? A purpose. So almost every company should be able to figure out that why and be able to over and over and over make sure employees understand how they are connected to the why. They might be feeling, maybe I'm just ordering supplies, and I don't mean just as in negative, but that's how they feel. That's why they're not engaged. Oh, I just go to work and I just order supplies. No, how are you connected to the big mission of what the company does? Without you, everything would fall apart. Yeah. If we didn't have our administrative assistants, everything would fall apart, right? Yeah. So how are the employees engaged? engaged to the big mission of the work and why do they matter. That's what employee engagement really is, in my opinion. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, and it is interesting that we seem to be seeing almost, even though we can identify it, right? There is this growing gap between that engagement in those companies. Yeah. So, so before we even got on, we were talking about actually different kind of, this is going to date us, different things that came around that radically changed the world and
Ricky
technology.
Lake.
Ricky Lake. You mentioned Ricky Lake. We talked the internet. So all of my young punk kids at work are going to call me a dinosaur and say, you were here for the invention of the internet. But the internet and social media and, all these kind of things that have affected and changed the way that I think humans interact with humans, right? People and friends interact with each other. And then we had this thing, I don't know if everybody heard of it, called COVID. And I think that's had a pretty big impact on employee engagement, right? We had kind of the pre-COVID times where Zoom was kind of a thing that people did on occasion. And now it seems to be way more just prevalent within companies and teams. Remote work is higher, but also people are in a different stage. So I just love to know, how have you seen post-COVID affecting employee engagement? What are trends? What are things that you see in the world?
Well, I'm going to throw a story in here. It was March 2020. And we were hosting an event. So we were a live events company, essentially. Yeah. And 30 people showed up to this event. And we used to have 100 to 150 at every event. So COVID is coming on strong. Yep. And I sit down, I look at my director of operations who was with me, and and she basically ran all the events. And I said, well, I guess we're done. Right? And she looks at me, and this is my employee. She looks at me and she goes, no way. These people need us. Yeah. That is an example of employee engagement. I, the leader of the organization, was really ready to go, well.
She's like, come on.
Time to call intel.
She goes, no, we have to be the ones that stand up and are here because everyone's losing their jobs. Yeah. And so I said, okay, I don't know what that means, but okay. And within 1 week, we were the first organization to be able to get things launched to be able to help people get jobs. And we had an event that very next week on Zoom, which was hard at the time, weird, and you had all these tech issues. Wi-Fi was down everywhere all the time because everyone was using now their internet at home, but she made it happen. So she didn't make it happen because I asked her to. She didn't make it happen because I gave her every other Friday off. She made it happen because we were on mission. Yeah. So that's the example. How do you get your people on mission to care about what you care about and know that if it weren't for her, it wouldn't happen because she ran events. So I'm probably swaying away from your question, but COVID changed the way that the people were in the office. You can look at them and you can hey, let's rally around this thing, this project. And all of a sudden, everyone's everywhere, all around essentially the world. You're working in different places all the time now. So it does take away the kind of warm and fuzzies of being around people all the time. And there are companies coming back to hybrid, because they want to create that. Yeah. But it has created a very complex environment for leaders. Yeah. To how to balance the employee engagement side. Yeah. And we have lost a lot of that because you can't rally people in the office as much. Sure. And so it is difficult. Has changed. And I think those employee engagement numbers, the one I saw was 22% or 20%, about 20% are engaged. That's it. Yeah. And so the numbers they're falling right around there on the regular from Gallup. Yeah. And it's shocking to me. Yeah, it is. You know what? It's super interesting that you tell that story because I think so when COVID started, we all saw this trend of people going online, right? And hey, we're going to work remote.
And the world was saying, hey, this is the way it is right now. And I kind of had this thought in the back of my mind that was actually COVID is going to show us our deep and desperate need for people. And I think it has the opportunity, as we're falling off, to ask the question, right? How do we actually engage our team? And so it's interesting because you made a comment earlier and you said, hey, we can throw up a ping pong table, we can put a kegger in, we can do all these kind of things, right? We can make it a great atmosphere, which was kind of Nike was one of the first to kind of like, hey, we're going to have this really cool place. Google does the same thing. But you're saying there's something different that is going to attribute to that, which is, hey, am I on mission with my team?
Yeah,
do I feel like I'm a part of the team? Even if I feel like on some level I'm just doing paperwork or I'm sending something out, am I a part of the mission? Do I have the why from bottom, right, to top, from the person that hopefully does not feel like a grunt? I think that's often how the bottom people feel, that they're a grunt, like that you're not a grunt, that you are part of the mission. So if we want to increase engagement, this is actually an opportunity. I feel like it's a wake-up call for our companies of going, hey, we had this event that forced us apart and everybody's starting to see our need for people. But in business or in our organizations or on our teams, it's more connecting with the why even than having all the fancy bells and whistles.
Yeah, for sure. And also understanding what your employees need. So I have an assistant that, she has specific needs because of her kids and stuff. There is no reason she has to be sitting in the office between the hours of 8 and 3. So I think those are the two big things. It's what do your employees need and knowing and caring about those.
Yeah, that's so good.
And then being connected to the mission.
Yeah, that's so good. Because we have found out that person can be productive and go home and be with their kid for a little bit. And sometimes they're more productive, right?
Yeah.
That's caused businesses to change like, hey, rather than being strict, let's be a little bit more flexible.
Can do to adjust to what employees need and care about.
Yeah,
that's right.
Well said.
Something that has really thrown me off, like trying to get more of an understanding on, is this whole Great Resignation thing, right? And one of the things you had shared with me is that the Great Resignation is sort of technically over, but that doesn't mean that it's over.
Yeah.
There's still some lag and there's still some kind of spillover from what we were seeing for that season.
Yeah.
So any context you can give us on what happened during COVID to employee engagement, what happened with the Great Resignation, where do we find ourselves now as we lead organizations?
Yeah. So the Great Resignation had millions and millions of people quitting their jobs. It was called quiet quitting also. So some people were just not showing up for work, which blows my mind.
Me too.
But they obviously didn't feel cared for in any way, shape, or form. If they're just quitting, which it just still blows my mind. But that was true. It was reality. That's what was happened. So the Great Resignation, it officially ended in July of 2023. However, people are still leaving their jobs. It's just not maybe at the high volume that it was. People are passively looking for jobs constantly. Now, that will always happen. But if you're only at a 20% engaged rate for your staff, that means probably 80% are out there spending some time during the week looking for jobs. And so how do you get those people to be engaged, right? Whether they're, work from home or they're virtual or they're in office. But it's going to still happen. But they have to really figure out the leaders of these of the organizations, of course, the highest leader, but also the first line managers. Do they know their employees? Do they care about them? Do they know what their specific needs are? Do they meet with them regularly and let them know here is what, here's what you own, and how it's tied up to the bigger mission. Yeah. Like you can have those conversations on Zoom or on the phone. You don't have to be in person to be having those conversations. Or you can. Maybe you're an operator. My son is an engineer, and he runs 50 operators. He's only been at this company for 2 years now, and he's just got a promotion and is moving to Charleston. These people, these operators who are 50, 60 years old are so sad he's leaving. Because when he went in, we had some great conversations. He cared about these people. Yeah. No one had even asked them about their family, what they do, why they're here. They're in Georgia in this little rural community, but there's this kid, literally, a 23-year-old kid, engineer coming in. Of course, he gets this great job, but now he's leading all these operators, and they're thinking, oh, this punk is going to come in. No one wanted to talk to him. He's the only Hispanic in this community. Yeah. And so he was like, I'm not going to get any respect. No, you go in, you care about people. And that's what he did. Joking around, having fun, caring about people. And now they're sad that he's leaving,
so
2 years later.
Yeah.
Those operators really connected to him. So that's a young leader coming in that can make an impact. Anybody can make an impact at any level of their career if they care about people.
That's really
so good. You reminded me of a book that I really enjoy, and I always recommend it to managers, especially clients who are leading. It's called The Coaching Effect by a guy named Bill Ekstrom. And one of the things that they did through his research was basically study what are the most effective ways to make employees feel engaged. And one of the things that they found was that a simple bi-weekly 1-hour meeting, one-on-one if possible, but it doesn't even have to be one-on-one. It could be in a small group or a team environment. And the effectiveness of that one change, just being consistent with those check-in meetings, completely changes performance over the course of the times that they measured. Yeah. And so hearing you say that and kind of confirm that from what you're seeing across the clients that you have is really encouraging to me. It's not that it's complicated. Yeah. It's that it's difficult to prioritize it. Yeah.
I think we make these big programs, we do these big, huge things when, they're not needed. Suddenly you don't need to spend millions and millions of dollars on helping people see how they're connected to the mission and helping people feel important and cared for.
Yeah. It's simple. It's just not easy.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. I think when we're driven by numbers and P&Ls and we're trying to hit all the stuff,
sure,
of course it gets lost. That's why it gets lost. And it feels, to some people, it feels like so much work, but it's really not in the big picture. Now, if you have a team of if you're meeting one-on-one with them every week.
Oh yeah.
That's
it's
10
a
hours.
huge time commitment.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so they, but they don't have a little bit of a pyramid underneath them. So they don't have people that they can say, hey, when I'm not around or when I need help with this is what you've got to do. And just as simply as designing those types of relationships into teams, it can cover so much of these problems that we experience with what I would call is a little bit of workplace neglect.
Yeah.
You don't have that relationship with your manager because of the volume of people maybe or the scarcity of time. And so then you kind of feel isolated and neglected.
Yeah.
But simple delegation can solve that.
It's a leadership tree.
That's right.
Right.
We need to do an episode. We'll do an episode.
Yeah, we can do an episode on the leadership tree.
Yeah,
it's my favorite thing. It's this is what gets me excited, gets me out of bed every morning. If instead of going, hey, I need to lead 500 people, if I say I need to lead 3 people and I need to lead 3 people really well, and my leadership needs to be replicated from those 3 people to another 3, we can cover the entire organization. And it may not be organizationally sound in terms of every single person is going to fall in the correct hierarchy, but we can start to actually see if everybody's engaged, right? then I can actually know, hey, how are these 3 people doing? Because you're right. If I got to meet with all 10 people on my team, that is, it's manageable, but it may not be scalable, right? Mm-hmm. But if I can start to equip and empower and challenge my team to be doing the same thing that I'm doing for them, and that trickles down, now we can start to get everybody in there, right? So yes, I'd love to do a leadership tree, because I think that is one of the most simple solution to a complex problem, which doesn't always work, but I think it has the ability to really put some good structure around what does that look like. Yeah. So, okay, so I'm going to throw a kind of a fill in the blank for you, and you can fill in the blank however you want. So, when leaders fail to deeply engage, employees what?
Disconnect.
Yeah.
Mm.
Disconnect from
work, from whatever they're doing. They're just doing the bare minimum to get the job done, to stay employed.
Yeah.
I've done it.
Totally.
I know, I can think right now to the job that was.
Yeah.
So they disconnect.
Yeah.
And they're doing their side gigs.
Yeah.
That are more fun.
So and that
they're Swimply hosts.
Yes.
They're Swimply hosts.
The CEO owner is disconnecting right now, their own company. But only because she loves inviting others to swim at her house so much, which is fantastic. So, okay, that has an exponentially bad effect on an organization, right?
Yeah.
Because not only are we getting less productivity from the time and less care and less attention to detail, but there's the chance that those are pulling somebody away from the business to the point where if they get a better opportunity, there's a good chance that they're going to leave.
They're going to leave, but also they're the ones not raising their hand to sign up for other projects.
Yeah.
They're not giving their input on important things. There are so many consequences of disengaged employees and disconnected employees.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is what is interesting. We think we're saving time and money because we are on mission ourselves and we're looking at the bottom line. Like, that's the thought process. Hey, if I'm just going to carry all these people with me and they're going to come with me, come hell or high water. But truthfully, in order to avoid that situation where my team is disconnected, where my team is not volunteering for things, where my team is not putting in the extra effort, where they're not working to get the promotion, like, I want a person that is so engaged in my company that even if they get a better opportunity with more money, they are really wrestling with that decision. And I think the way that we get there too is ultimately as their leader, like, I got to say, like, hey, I want what's best for you either way. But that I'd much rather have that tension, right, than disconnection.
Yeah.
Like, where they're really invested and engaged, because that is hurting our bottom line.
Yeah. I think if you're a leader and you think of your team, and if you want to throw up because you're thinking that these people might leave, that's a good sign. So you're like, if this person leaves, I'm literally going to go throw up because it will wreck me.
Yeah.
But you have 4 people that you're like, oh, it won't really hurt my feelings. You need to do some work as the leader. You need to go build those people up better into the organization, or release them to go do what they really care about.
Yeah.
Like, having people that don't care, that's a huge issue.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. And leading them, I think it's Darren Hardy that said, hey, if you don't know your team's hopes, dreams, and fears, you are not leading them.
That's good.
And I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
I'm reminded of our friend Ty Yoakum. I was referencing him earlier. He was a 27-year veteran at Chick-fil-A, did training and development, and he would oftentimes have these franchisees, criticize him, saying, hey, like, you training and development guys, you make me train my people and then they leave. And Ty kind of chuckles and he's like, yeah, well, what if we don't train them and then they stay?
Yes.
Then
such
what?
A good quote.
Yeah.
Right?
But think of the legacy of that man. And, like, him teaching people how to train people, and then those people leaving and replicating what they've learned into the community. Like, they have been well trained.
Right.
They know they have good communication skills. All the things they learn at a Chick-fil-A and how to, do their job, they have taken that into the world. And so what a legacy. It's so, it's just great to think about companies that care about people that much, that when they do leave, it's okay because now they're going to make an impact in the work that they're going to go do.
Oh,
that's right.
So good.
Yeah.
Brad, I know you have another question. I want to get practical, which is I know where we're going, but like, I wish we had a little jingle right now that was just like Practicality Corner. I know you hate all my little segments.
I would just like press the button.
If Jesus can edit this in, and it's got like a little do so that we can get, because I want to get really practical, and you got some good question to get that, but so that people can get this, Practicality Corner. Anyways, that's it. That's all I really had to say. I was just chiming in when I didn't.
Great.
When I didn't
I
need
love
to.
it. I thought you were going somewhere with that.
No, I want you to ask your question in the Practicality Corner. Welcome.
Yeah, welcome to the Practicality Corner. Let's get practical. So, all right, I want to talk about Swimply, but
the name is so good.
Yeah,
Swimply.
But we got to stay focused on employee engagement for a minute here, because that was the conversation we said we'd have.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to title this podcast.
Stay grounded.
And we want people to actually
for
finish
the
it
love
with
of everything holy.
So, all right, I'm the leader of an organization, and I know I have an employee engagement problem.
Mm-hmm.
Where do I start? What's task one?
Task one is, does that leader have a mentor, a coach? I'm a huge advocate. To try to do stuff blindly, you're going to lead your people blindly. So I do think leaders need to have an investment of some type of coaching, whether it is small group coaching. There's tons of CEO organizations out there, whether it's an individual coach, like somebody to say, hey, I want to do this. Hey, I want to talk to this person. They need to have that person.
That's great.
So I think that's a huge step forward.
Mentorship, coaching, training, you have to have someone showing you the way.
That's right. Or if they can't do that, go read a couple books.
Yeah.
There's so many good books, and maybe you guys can put a list on your transcript, but a list of some of the best leadership books out there. One of my favorites, Patrick Lencioni, he has phenomenal coaching through his books. So take a look. Those are two things that you can do right away. And then the third is ask your people. Ask them.
Right.
That's so good.
Just tell them I've been a leader a long time, or maybe I'm brand new, but I'm trying, but I don't think I'm great, and I want to get better, or I just want to get better. Mm-hmm. What could I do as your leader to be a better leader? And they'll tell you.
Yeah, they've got no problem.
They will have no problem. I have asked this, and I think some people live in fear of their leader, and that's unfortunate. Like, they shouldn't. And this can be a step of breaking that ice of, I'm not going to fire you. Open the door. Just open the door.
Yeah,
that's right.
And so people can step through.
That's great.
So those are three things I would recommend.
Yeah, and so what I'm hearing you say is, this is not a silver bullet thing. This is a tailor-made thing.
Yeah.
We have to actually care about our people. We actually have to actually talk to them, which means open the door. Open office hours on your calendar.
Yeah.
They can zoom in with you and see your eyeballs through the screen.
Yeah.
Like, there isn't just we're going to do this capital T transformation program and then the problem's going to go away.
Yeah,
No, we're actually going to have to make time for employee engagement on our calendars.
Yeah.
We're actually going to have to listen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think once you know who your people are, it changes everything. This is not an employee of mine, but a friend. It was a neighbor, and they're Indian, and they got recruited. Google recruited this family over, and he was working for Google, and then he moved to, I think, Facebook, and then ended up at a bank, and is where he is now, and he's been there for like 10 years. He, because they're from India, they have a son, and the wife can't work because they don't have all of their green card, work visa, all the stuff. So he has a work visa so he can work here. But to be a full citizen, he's not a full citizen yet, but his wife can't work because she was not recruited over. His son, who's Indian, is at a really high-level school here, then comes home and does homework for 6 hours. And, we're thinking, wow, that's intense. Poor kid. He's like, Jessica, if I am not a citizen by the time my son graduates school, it's possible he could have to go back to India. He goes, that's how important this is to us, that he has to get straight A's. He has to go into a college. And so he can continue to work here, even if we have to get sent back. I'm like, because it takes so long to get citizenship. So when you learn that about people and you're like, oh, you have to leave at 4:00 to go pick up your kid from school. Well, okay. That's great. Let's change your shift. So you learn these things about people and you care about them, and it changes you as a leader. Instead of just being the one that hands down all the rules and the stuff that has to get done.
Yeah. That's great. Find a coach, study up, and care.
Yeah. That's what I believe works.
Yeah. No, that is really well said. And that's a great story. We don't ever know what's going on unless we're going to ask, right?
That's right.
Man, that was a good practicality corner for our first practicality corner. I really like it. That went really well.
Drop the
jingle. I think we can apply. I do have one last question. Brad doesn't know I'm going to do this.
Oh, no.
I saw this on a podcast recently. I was like, that's a great idea. I'm going to take that we're going to try it. Okay, so we do the podcast a fair amount. I'd love to know. We have different leaders on our podcast all the time. What is one question you can leave for the next person that's coming on? And then we'll ask them that question.
Oh, I actually like this. I thought I was going to hate what you're going to say, but I love it.
What is...
I know this is tough. I put you on the spot.
Yeah, that's okay. I would say, what's a side gig you do that maybe people don't know about?
Oh, I love it.
Or what?
I like that.
If they don't, and most people are gonna have something.
Yeah.
They're like,
hopefully they're not like,
I sell on Amazon and I drop ship. Like,
that's right.
So
like,
you do?
Yeah, cool. Side gig. Oh, I'm a drug dealer.
Well.
We just said that. The FBI is going to be here pretty soon. Our bad.
I would love for you to ask that and then tell me if you ever get another Swimply host.
Okay. Yes. Okay. That's just going to be.
If there was another Swimply host, we'll pee in their pool. It'll all be okay. Don't worry.
That's right.
We'll take not yours, not yours.
No,
theirs.
We'll sabotage their pool.
Yeah.
Brad and I'll just keep signing up for all the other Swimplys.
Yeah. I'll just give them all 1-star ratings.
Wait, we could have a business where we sabotage people's pools on Swimply, so you hire us if you want to go mess with the competition.
I am not advocating for that, for the record.
well, we've always been full of it, that's for sure. So.
All right.
Yeah,
Jessica, that was so fun.
That was so
Thank
fun.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Super appreciate your time. Anything else we need to cover, Brad, before we get out of here? Like,
subscribe. Yeah,
comment. All those things. Anything else?
I think that's all of them.
That's probably it. Everybody, thank you for turning?
Don't turn.
I'm losing it. I'm about to have kids and I'm just losing it. Thanks for listening or watching the Daily Leader today, and we will see you next time.